And what's your feeling been after you look? Have you looked into other religions? What religion do you have yourself?
Personally, I'm Catholic,
Right.
but I'm not practicing.
I'm with you. I'm with you. And what about when you looked at, from what you've learned about Islam? Has that resonated with you?
I definitely think it's better than Christianity. Just there's certain beliefs that I think are wrong in Christianity. Like just a lot of the things you read in the Bible can be a little bit questionable. So,
Such as?
Jeremiah. There's a quote that says you have the full head of a whore.
There's only one thing.
It's very questionable. Yeah.
When in Islam, have you read the Quran before ever?
No, certain quotes.
I got you. So you'll see that when, yes, in the Bible there are certain things which you think, even like the narration of how stories of the prophets and the things that the prophets are doing are meant to be examples for humanity. Islam comes to correct some of those things and gives a correct perspective of who these men really were. And Jesus for you, Jesus Christ, how do you view him? Do you view him as a messenger of God, sent by God with a message, or as God himself?
I think a messenger also.
You view him, sorry?
Messenger.
As a messenger, excellent. So this is the viewpoint that we have in Islam. We view Jesus Christ as a mighty messenger of God. He came to his people. He asked them to follow the same message that Abraham and Moses came with, to worship one God. And that's your means of salvation. As human beings, we have a purpose in this life. And that purpose is to thank the one who created us. And worship is a means of doing that as well, to worship him. And if a human being does that, and this has been the same consistent message from the beginning of time, worship the one who created you. Don't worship the sun or the moon or the stars or any of these created things. Worship the creator of everything, okay? And that's what gives a person peace and tranquility that we're looking for in this life. Once you connect with that creator. And that's our means of salvation, not a human sacrifice or anything like that. That's essentially what it is, a human sacrifice. In Islam, there's nothing like that. You worship one God, you enter into paradise. This is a guidebook. The creator gives us, if he has given us a purpose and he's given us an objective, it only makes sense that he gives us guidance. And the final message of the Prophet Muhammad, he came with this book for the Holy Quran. How does that sound to you? I mean, you seem like you're nodding to everything.
Yeah, I just think it's really interesting. Like the subtle differences between like all the Abrahamic faiths and stuff. But I think like Islam has the best overall.
Do you know if that one's
comprehend?
Yeah. The whole belief overall, I think it slightly makes more sense.
Is there anything? I mean, we're not offended easily. I guess feel free to ask. This is your opportunity, essentially. Is there anything in Islam which you felt, look, I can't quite understand that, or I don't quite agree with that, or has it all been like, well, that makes sense and that makes sense? So just feel free to speak your mind.
Pretty much everything except like some of Sharia law.
Okay, yeah.
You don't have
there's a quote that's like cut off the hands of all thieves.
Okay, yeah.
So I just think that's very harsh.
I'm with you. So now, it's good that you've shared that as well. So we believe that in terms of, like we said, the guidance is from God. So the just punishment for a particular crime, first of all, we kind of affirm why the Quran is the word of God.
Yeah.
Okay, can this be from a human being, and all the rest of it, the scientific miracles within it, how it was revealed, the Prophet Muhammad, he couldn't read and write, it's been preserved until this day, and many prophecies and everything that's within it to affirm that this is God himself speaking. From that point, we rely upon his wisdom. So if God says that a thief, that this is the punishment that is just for him. Now this is not like every person who is caught stealing that we just chop their hands off. There's a due process in place. So if a person says, look, I've got a starving family at home, so I had to do it. Of course there's no punishment for this person. If the person has a justifiable reason, okay, is he mentally well? Was he intoxicated at the time? So all these conditions need to be fulfilled or considered before a punishment is enacted. And even the type of theft isn't petty theft, like he's stolen an apple or something. It's grand theft, essentially. So if he goes and he has no need to do this act, essentially, but he's a nuisance to society. He's robbing people's houses repeatedly without any need. Then, as a deterrent for those who can consider that, this is the punishment. Okay, which is carried throughout a due process. I mean, does that kind of?
Yeah, makes sense.
And if I think once you see someone with the one hand walking around, you'll think twice about doing the same thing. So it does act a very effective deterrent. If you go to Muslim countries, have you been to any Muslim countries yet? So if you go there, you'll find that there is that level of security and safety.
We're here for
people, if someone's dropped the wallet on the road, etc., people generally try to find the owner or hand it in because they, of course, they fear God, number one, but also the place, those punishments are in place for drug dealing, for example, and all these other sort of things. There is that harshness that's needed sometimes to keep society in line, because Islam came to enhance and improve society, okay? And some of these things, I know you're roasting the sun, sorry, you're getting redder by the second. So this is, that's the sort of reasoning behind some of these punishments there. But again, there is due process. It's not just every thief gets their hands chopped off. It's a certain type and a certain conditions in place. Have you considered accepting Islam? Because it seems like everything your beliefs are there. And you've come over here for a Quran. You're sorry?
I'm Polish, so my family and stuff, like background-wise.
What important?
It's a hard one because I'm Catholic, but it's not really like I believe in God per se. But I do feel like the teachings more so make sense in Islam and like all the ideas behind it. So I feel like it'd be a long journey if I ever was to.
When you say you don't believe in God per se, you mean, so what's your view about in terms of like, is there a creator? Are you sure about the way?
That's the thing, you just don't know.
Okay.
Because even though like Big Bang Theory and all of that, it had to still, like before the Big Bang Theory, what would have caused the Big Bang Theory to, like it's all a big thing. And so,
sorry to cut you. You know what you're saying.
If there's a God who created
we don't
gods,
actually take what the Bible says.
Excellent.
Okay.
the idea of
As Muslims, we believe the Bible is
what's it
corrupted.
called? Like
You have
eternal
no-
recurrence.
Okay, if you don't believe
Infinite regression.
Yeah.
Now, so these are very good, very logical questions as well. So number one, we believe that the universe must have been caused by something, okay? And that cause itself must have power, must have intelligence, must have a will. Because if we look around us in the universe, something with immense power must have created this solar system that we live in. And it must have had a will because it chose to do something, okay? And it must have, intelligence, because things are not haphazardly placed in different places with the right distance from the sun. The solar system moves in a certain way. There's order, even within ourselves, in our bodies. So that's one thing. So that points some of his attributes. Number two, that creator must be uncreated.
But that just sounds wrong, like logically speaking.
Okay.
Everything has to have a creator.
I'm with you. Every created thing must have a creator. But the creator himself must be uncreated. I'll tell you why. If, for example, I'll give you an example. If there was a sniper, okay, let's say a sniper, and he's got the target in his sights, and he can't pull that trigger until he gets the permission from his senior. Okay, his general has to say, okay, go ahead, pull the trigger, and shoot the target. Okay, and that continued until to his senior for infinity. Would he ever pull that trigger? If they were all waiting for the command to pull the trigger.
But then it's just free will. Just do it.
I'm giving you the scenario here. For him to take that action to pull the trigger, he needs to wait for permission, and he can't have that permission until that person gets permission. And you continue that process all the way back, and they're all waiting for a senior individual to them to give them permission to pull the trigger.
That's just not how it works, though.
How do you see how it works?
Because if the sniper had to pull the trigger, that is actually like a logical, like it's a real thing. Like it stops at like the highest person, whoever is in charge.
So,
but
the pulling the trigger is an analogy to create us, for example, to create the universe. Okay, if God was dependent upon another creator. But it just doesn't make sense, because if there's a creator, how did the creator come about? Excellent. So the creator himself must be uncreated, because we exist.
That doesn't make sense.
Okay, if he was created, what would your next question be?
Who created him? And it keeps going, but it doesn't make sense.
And if you continue with that process of who created the creator, you'd never have a creation at the end of it.
Or just no answer, which we don't have anyway.
The fact that we exist, this creation exists, means that creator must be uncreated. If he's dependent upon something, it's a dependency argument, that everything is dependent upon something else. Okay, but for that initial prime mover, if you want to call it that must be an independent entity. He's not dependent on anyone.
Yeah, I don't like, but still. Just logically speaking.
This is logic.
But not necessarily, because You can't just have something.
If God was dependent upon someone else, would he be able to do something? Speak to his brother here, inshallah.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum.
Like,
Yeah, this is for non-Muslims, for dawah material.
nothing can exist without.
No, it's not for the
something
kids. This
else.
is, you can buy that online.
So if
This is for
God really does
non-Muslims, you get
exist,
for dawah,
then
isn't it? Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
So this rule would apply to the creation. If it applied to the creator, we would have no creation.
But creator had to have been created.
Why?
Because how else would he be able to do anything? It was
That doesn't. By choosing to do what he wants. He's uncreated. He is the initial entity.
I don't know. It just keeps going and going.
Yeah. So I would say the premise itself that the creator needs to be created is a flawed premise, because the creation is dependent upon that creator. If he was himself dependent, then we would continue for infinity, and there would not be a creation at the end. It's a bit of a mind-boggling one, especially on a Saturday in the afternoon when you're out here. May need to sort of like reflect on it. There is a book I'm not sure if they brought it. It's called The Man in the Red Underpants. If you Google it online, it's not a long book. It's called The Man in the Red Underpants. Okay, and that will give you some of these questions, this sort of thought process, and it sort of plays through that whole thought process there, and leads you to some of the answers which you may be looking for.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you have any questions, we have a Instagram page.
Yeah.
So you can pop us a message anytime.
Yes.
And when don't be shy. Anytime, we've got admins, all the rest of it. Okay. So if there's anything which doesn't make sense, or you've got questions these are great questions. They're really good, genuine questions, and we'd like to sort of help to answer some of those as well. So feel free to pop us a message, and you can take it there.
Okay. Thank you.
You have a good. Thank you for your time. Sorry about the sun. I know you're not getting out. Take care.